Now, these are two episodes I think we're going to have a lot of interesting discussions about in the comments. Let's talk End of Time Part 1 and 2. Now, quickly, the reason why I'm putting these together is just because, first of all, I think they work well, as, like there isn't, like, too much, like, difference in quality between Part 1 and Part 2, but just also, as they're not really that Christmassy, I don't feel like this is worth dedicating 2 videos on. And first of all, let me get that point out the way. Neither of these are particularly Christmassy. No, Part 1 has a couple of bits of Christmas. Like, I feel like it's one of those where it kind of, like, feels like it's a story that just happened to be set on the 12th of December, and there's a little bit of snow about, and Wilf's having a dance. Which I won't say no to. Like, Wilf being happy on Christmas is always what I like. But overall, that's kind of, it's not Christmassy enough. And that's why it feels weird on Christmas sometimes when, like, these Christmas episodes have to also do a regeneration, because then they just become, like, regular Doctor Who and not, like, Christmas Doctor Who. So you kind of, like, come with, like, a series of Christmas episodes that are either really fun and Christmassy or, like, really dark and regenerative. That's English, and I smashed it. I think the strength of this episode really lies on its few main performances. Mainly David Tennant and Bernard Cribbins. I am genuinely so glad, like, how much Bernard is involved in this story. Like, when he passed, I remember watching End of Time Part 1 and 2, just because I knew that was the most involved he was in it, and he was always fantastic in this role, and giving him a little bit more of the spotlight was fantastic, and Bernard will be incredibly missed. But specifically speaking on the episode, David and Bernard and the interactions they have, those really personal feeling stuff, especially like a lot of stuff in Part 2, but also, like the cafe scene in Part 1, really works for me. Those are like the best elements of this story, with these 2 great actors and this fantastically written dialogue, and they both smash it, and it's beautiful and emotional, but really Doctor Who-y at the same time. And trust me, that's a great balance. Emotion and Doctor Who-iness. I'm not sure exactly about how I feel about where they took John Simm's master. I feel like maybe, the cannibalism and the superhero-iness was a bit odd. With what John Simm was given, he did fantastically. He really is a great master, and to be fair, again, I'd happily see John Simm come back. Then it probably would be weird if he came back in RTD2, because then it'd be kind of like, RTD is back, and he brought back his own master. Like, keep Sacha Dhawan, he's class. But I think, again, that's what makes this story work, almost kind of like that triangle, that those, like, powers, like, coming together, and I think it's really interesting. And again, I think David and John Simm bounce off each other really well, and there's some lovely dynamics here. I think that's where this episode is at its strongest, where these powerhouse actors are battling off each other. Even Timothy Dalton comes in for basically a cameo, but still does some really interesting stuff. In terms of plot, the plot itself is more focused on the fact that DT is going to regenerate than any actual interesting plot itself. Like, the Time Lords are coming back, and they're going to do evil things, and now every human is the Master, and the Master does evil things. You're not really there for this big epic plot. You're kind of just there to go, right, how's DT gonna regenerate? Now, I know one of the things that people really, it's very controversial, is a lot of the goodbyes in End of Time Part 2. Like, we spend a good 15-20 minutes on them. And for me, I really like it. And honestly, that's just because of my pure bias towards the first RTD era. Because yes, I literally grew up with that era, love it so much still to this day. So yes, David going back and seeing all of these things, and not just, because obviously we go back and see Martha, and we go back and see Rose, and we go back and see Donna. Those are predictable. But then we also get cute other moments with, like, Captain Jack and Alonzo, and, like, Sarah Jane. And even the woman from Family of Blood, we get to see one of her ancestors, and that conversation, and all of that stuff, really interesting. And it really helps to put a bookend on RTD era, and as that's, like, an era I love, I'm going to support that decision. However, that's just my take, and I completely understand if someone could, like, watch The End of Time Part 2 and go, this feels a bit self-indulgent. I have to admit, something I do wish was slightly changed is I could do so much more stuff. Those lines, I admit, can feel a bit self-indulgent. Like, a lot of, like, the I don't want to go stuff at the end, and, you know, like, some of that I kind of get, and I feel like, especially where David's doctor was at, coming from, you know, this, like, all Time Lord victorious kind of stuff, a lot of that stuff going towards the end kind of does make sense. But his speech to Wilf just before, obviously, he lets him out and the regeneration event occurs, I do admit, however much it hurts me to say this, it does come across a little bit self-indulgent and just a bit out of character. That's the only moment where I, like, can agree, where some fans do have a little bit of problem with David's regeneration. That part just, I don't know, it doesn't suit the character that much. Then obviously you do get some lines towards the end, you know, like, Wilf, it'll be my honour, and it kind of, like, makes mistakes, and then does kind of, like, make it up for itself. I'm not going to go too in-depth here, because as well, this isn't a Christmas episode, so I don't feel like it deserves, like, tons of time, because obviously I'm doing this review series around Christmas, to review Christmas specials. I think this episode has some problems. It's not groundbreaking, like, as I've said. If you're not watching an episode really for the plot that much, it's probably not the best plot. I think it's fine, and is really helped by some powerhouse performances, and a great emotional ending. What are your thoughts on The End of Time Part 1 and 2? Let me know in the comments below. And subscribe for this great Christmassy journey we've all found ourselves on. If you want to watch my playlist of all my Christmassy videos about Doctor Who, you can click this one here. Yeah, please do it. Please, I'd quite like you to.